From multimillionaire rap mogul to inmate, Suge Knight cut a surprise plea deal today to avoid being tried for murder.
Breaking news in the last 30 minutes, a local rapper found guilty of murdering a 9-year-old boy in Durham.
Guys, I am actively facing 24 years next month.
They wanted fame, they wanted power. Now, they got nothing but time behind bars. Some ate their own homies, set up murder for hire hits. Some even ran drug empires like mob bosses. From death row life sentences, these rappers ain't ever coming home. Starting off with Big Lurch. Rodney Big Lurch Fletcher had real potential. Coming out of Texas, his deep, menacing flow had people talking. He linked up with Cosmic hip hop group, Cosmic Slop Shop, and even worked with legends like E40. But just as his career was starting to move, Lurch got caught up in something straight out of a horror movie. Something that ain't even supposed to happen in real life. April 10th, 2002, Los Angeles, California. This is the day that Lurch went from being a rapper to a real-life monster, a cannibalist. Lurch was running around the streets butt naked, reportedly high on PCP, phencylamine, covered in blood. When cops caught up with him, he was chewing on a piece of human flesh. That flesh, it belonged to 21-year-old Tanisha Yesias, his roommate. The scene inside the apartment was gruesome. Tanisha was found stabbed multiple times, her chest cavity ripped open. The autopsy later revealed that her lungs had been removed, and a piece of human meat was found in Lurch's stomach. The drugs had him tripping so bad that he thought he was possessed. When the case hit the court, the prosecution didn't have to do too much. The evidence was all there. Lurch tried to say that he was drugged against his will, but it didn't fly. No plea deals, no second chances. In 2003, he was sentenced to life without parole, locked up for good at the age of 27. Big Lurch is rotting in California State Prison. No music, no future, just time. He claims that he was set up, saying that the drugs were given to him by his label to make him wild out for publicity.
They got me high on purpose to take advantage of me.
But ain't nobody buying it. Every now and then, he gives interviews, still trying to plead his case.
Do you know that you were actually chewing on her flesh, allegedly, when the cops came?
Cool C. Cool C, born Christopher Rodney, came up in the golden era of hip-hop, rocking with the Hilltop Hustlers crew. His track Glamorous Life put him on the map, and he was living the rap star dream. Gold chains, money, respect. But behind the scenes, things weren't so sweet. The fame was fading, and the money wasn't coming like before. That's when he and his crew decided to hit a lick that would change everything. On January 2nd, 1996, Philadelphia, Cool C, along with his fellow rapper, Teddy B, and another associate, decided to rob a PNC bank. But what they didn't expect was for Officer Laretha Bird, a 43-year-old mother and decorated cop, to walk in during the robbery. And instead of backing down, Cool C pulled the trigger. One shot. She went down. The first black female officer to be killed in the line of duty in Philly. The whole city was in shock. Cameras caught everything, and there was no way out. In 1996, Cool C at the age of 26 was sentenced to death. His team tried to fight it, but the evidence was ironclad. Surveillance, footage, witnesses, and ballistics all pointed straight to him. He was supposed to be executed in 2006, then 2015, but appeals kept denying it. Now he just waits, knowing one day that needle was coming. South Park Mexican, SPM. Carlos Coy, better known as SPM, South Park Mexican, was one of Houston's biggest underground rap kings. His label, Dope House Records, had the streets on lock, and hits like High So High and Mexican Radio had him winning big time in the rap game. But behind all the success, there was something dark creeping in the background. September 1st, 2001, Houston, Texas. A 9-year-old girl told her mom that she had been assaulted, and the man responsible, SPM himself. The case spiraled, leading to more allegations from multiple underage girls. The evidence was damning. Victims' DNA samples and SPM's own past behavior painted a picture that couldn't be ignored. The rap world turned their back on him, and the law made sure that he wouldn't see freedom again. In 2002, SPM, who was 31 years old at the time, was sentenced to 45 years for aggravated sexual assault of a child. The trial was ugly. His defense tried to call it all a setup, but the evidence was too heavy. SPM is rotting in a Texas prison, still claiming that he was framed. He keeps dropping music from behind bars, but the streets ain't messing with him no more. Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez had it all: talent, versatility, and a massive fan base. The Canadian-born rapper dominated the charts with hits like Say It, Love, and Broke in a Minute. His ability to blend R&B and rap made him one of the most unique voices in the industry. But in July of 2020, everything changed when he made one of the dumbest mistakes in his career. July 12, 2020, Los Angeles, California. After a heated argument with Megan Thee Stallion, things got out of hand. Megan tried to leave, and Tory allegedly pulled out a gun and shot her in the foot. At first, Megan tried to protect him, but the truth eventually came out. Witnesses, medical reports, and text messages allegedly proved that Tory was guilty. He begged for forgiveness over text, but once the case went public, he switched up, calling Megan a liar, dropping diss tracks, and dragging it out for years. In December of 2022, Tory was convicted of 3 felony charges, including assault with a firearm. In August of 2023, the judge gave him 10 years. He was 31 years old when he was sentenced. He tried to appeal, but in 2024, it was denied. Tory is locked up in the California prison, still claiming innocence. His fans still ride for him, but the industry moved on without him. He's saying that he'll be back, but 10 years is a long time to be gone. Sean Diddy Combs. Diddy was more than a rapper. He was a mogul. The man behind Bad Boy Records. He put Biggie, Mace, and The LOX on the map. He gave us Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, I'll Be Missing You, and Bad Boy for Life. He went from Harlem hustler to billionaire executive, running everything from Ciroc to Revolt TV. But in November 2023, his whole world collapsed. In late 2023, Diddy got hit with serious charges: sex trafficking, assault, and conspiracy. Multiple women came forward with claims of abuse, forced encounters, and coercion. The accusations painted a dark picture: private jets, secret parties, and a powerful man using his influence to silence victims. The feds raided his homes, seizing documents, tapes, and electronic evidence. They said that he was running a criminal enterprise, controlling people through fear, money, and manipulation. Diddy was detained at 54 in 2023, with a trial set for May of 2025, and it's looking bad for him. With multiple witnesses, recorded testimonies, and financial records linking him to hush money payments, the prosecution is coming for everything he built. Lil Durk. Lil Durk wasn't just a rapper. He was the face of Chicago drill music. Coming up with Only the Family, OTF, he built his empire alongside names like King Von and Chief Keef. Hits like The Voice, Laugh Now, Cry Later, and What Happened to Virgil made him a mainstream star. But while his music was evolving, his ties to the streets never faded. October 2024, Atlanta, Georgia. The feds came down hard, arresting Durk on murder for hire charges. According to reports, he was allegedly involved in orchestrating a hit on a rival, using his money and influence to put a target on someone's head. The details were messy: text messages, wiretaps, and informants pointing fingers in his direction. Durk had already beat a few cases in the past, including a 2019 shooting charge that got dropped. But this time, the evidence was stacking up fast. As of now, Durk is still awaiting trial. His legal team is pushing hard for bail, but with a murder for hire on the table, the court ain't budging. If convicted, he could be looking at life in prison. YNW Melly. Jamel YNW Melly Demons had the kind of talent that could have taken him to the top. His melodic flow and deep emotional lyrics made tracks like Murder on My Mind and Mixed Personalities instant hits. The industry was watching, and he was moving like he was the next big thing. But at the same time, he was running with demons, real ones. His own circle was turning on itself, and that's what led to his downfall. October 26, 2018, Miramar, Florida. YNW Melly and his right-hand man, YNW Bortolin, pulled up to the emergency room with 2 dead bodies, YNW Sack Chaser and YNW Juvie. They claimed they were caught in a drive-by, but something wasn't adding up. The shots came from inside the car, not outside. When police dug deeper, they said Melly and Bortolin staged the whole thing. Ballistics, surveillance footage, and even Melly's own phone records allegedly put him at the scene. Authorities claimed that he killed his own brothers. For what? Money? A setup? Nobody really knows. Melly was 19 when he was arrested in 2019. His first trial in 2023 ended in a mistrial. The jury couldn't decide. Now he's waiting for a retrial at Broward County Jail, and if the prosecution gets their way, he's looking at the death penalty. Casanova 2X was one of the hardest voices out of Brooklyn, running with Flatbush's Gorilla Stone Nation and making a name with tracks like Don't Run and Set Trippin'. He had the real gang energy, but he was also on the verge of something big, rocking with Roc Nation, getting features from big artists, and showing the industry that he was up next. But old habits die hard, and Cas couldn't shake the lifestyle that made him famous. December 2020, the feds dropped a bomb. Casanova and 18 other members of Gorilla Stone got indicted on racketeering, drug trafficking, and violent crimes. The case was ugly. Wiretaps, surveillance, and snitches all pointed fingers. The feds accused Casanova of being one of the big names running the Gorilla Stone, claiming that he helped move drugs, weapons, and even called hits on people. Cas knew that the feds had him. In May of 2022, he pleaded guilty, hoping for a lightened sentence. But when the time came, the judge didn't hold back. In June of 2023, he was 36 years old when he got hit with 15 years. Not the 60 he was facing, but still long enough to change everything. Quando Rondo came up fast in the rap game. A Savannah, Georgia native, he had the streets rocking with ABG, I Remember, and his biggest hit, Imperfect Flower. Signed under NBA YoungBoy's Never Broke Again label, Quando had potential to be one of the hottest young stars in the game, but instead of keeping it business, he stayed deep in the streets, running with the Rolling 60 Crips and getting caught in deadly beefs. December 2024, federal indictment drops. The feds had been watching. Quando and his associates building a case that linked him to drug trafficking and organized crime. According to court documents, Quando was moving large amounts of drugs, including fentanyl and meth, using his rap career as a front for criminal activity. With phone records, financial transactions, and confidential informants, the feds weren't just throwing out weak accusations. They had solid proof. Quando was caught moving dirty money, holding firearms as a convicted felon, and orchestrating deals across state lines. At the age of 25, Quando pleaded guilty in December of 2024. Knowing that he wasn't about to beat a federal case, the judge sentenced him to 33 months in prison, meaning he'll be behind bars until at least mid-2027. Compared to what he could have been facing, it was a lucky break, but it's still time lost in his prime. As of January 10th, 2025, Quando officially started his sentence. With his gang affiliations, he'll have to stay on alert in the system. His music, still streaming, but his career is on pause. AR-AB. Abdul West, better known as AR-AB, was a street legend in Philly. He built his name with hard-hitting bangers, real-life stories, and raw energy, earning cosigns from Drake and linking up with major underground names. Tracks like Mud Music and All I See Is Rain painted a picture of his life, but his music wasn't just art, it was reality. His lyrics weren't made up stories, they were straight up confessions. And that's exactly what put him away for 45 years. October 2018, Philadelphia. The feds had been watching AR-AB and his crew, OBH, Original Block Hustlers, for years. They weren't just rappers, they were running a full-on drug empire. Court records show that they moved kilos of coke, heroin, and meth, stacking money or leaving bodies behind. The case was built on wiretaps, surveillance, and even his own lyrics, where he bragged about running the city like a mob boss. In 2021, AR-AB, 38, got hit with 45-year sentence. His lawyers fought back, saying that it was all rap, not real life. But the feds weren't buying it. Too many dead bodies, too many wiretaps, too much evidence. AR-AB is riding a federal penitentiary. He claims he's sick, mistreated, and barely surviving. In interviews from prison, he says that he regrets everything, but the system ain't trying to hear that at all. Raw Diggs. Ronaldo Raw Diggs Heron was Brooklyn's worst nightmare. He was a street general. Coming from Gowanus projects, he controlled blocks with an iron fist, pushing drugs, running hits, and beefing with anybody in his way. He tried to pivot to rap, linking with Uncle Murda and Waka Flocka, but his street life was too real to escape. Between 2001 and 2009, Diggs was on a killer spree. 3 murders got tied to his name, plus drug trafficking, racketeer, and extortion. He thought he was untouchable, even bragging about beating that previous murder case on social media. But the feds were building a bulletproof case, stacking up informants, witnesses, and even his own words against him. In 2014, Diggs, 32, got buried alive in court. 3 life sentences, plus 105 years. The judge called him a cold-blooded killer who ran his gang like a warlord. His own gang members flipped, testifying against him to save themselves. No chance at parole, no second chances, he'll die behind bars. Lil Tony. Antonio Lil Tony Davenport wasn't a rap superstar, but in Durham, North Carolina, he had a name in the streets. At just 17 years old, he was already deep in gang activity, moving reckless with guns and dope. His music was all about violence and givebacks, but he wasn't just rapping about it, he was living it. August 18th, 2019, Durham, North Carolina. Lil Tony and his crew spotted a car they thought belonged to a rival gang. Without hesitation, they opened fire. The problem? It wasn't a rival, it was a family. Inside that car was 9-year-old Zion Person, riding with his aunts and siblings. The bullets hit Zion, killing him instantly. The case shook the city. Nobody could believe that a kid got murdered over nothing. The prosecution had security footage, witnesses, and ballistics tying Lil Tony to the shooting. He tried to play it off, but the evidence was stacked against him. In 2022, he was sentenced to life without parole at the age of 20. Rondo number 9. Rondo number 9 was supposed to be the next big thing out of Chicago's drill scene. He came up alongside Lil Durk, Chief Keef, and L.A. Capone, dropping hard-hitting drill anthems like Hang With Me and Play For Keeps. He had the look, the energy, and potential to go mainstream, but just like so many young drill rappers, he couldn't leave the streets alone, and it cost him everything. February 22nd, 2014, Chicago, Illinois. Rondo number 9, just 17 years old, and his boy C-Dye rolled up on Javon Boyd, a 28-year-old taxi driver, sitting in his car waiting for a customer. Boyd wasn't in the streets. He wasn't in the gang. He was just a regular dude trying to make a living. But that night, Rondo and C-Dye saw him as an easy target. They ran up on the car and let shots off and dipped. Boyd didn't make it. The whole thing was caught on surveillance cameras. The police had Rondo and C-Dye on the video at the scene, their fingerprints on the car, and phone records putting them there. Rondo's legal team tried to argue that there was no proof that he pulled the trigger, but the jury wasn't buying it. In 2016, he was sentenced to 39 years in prison. a sentence that meant he wouldn't see freedom until he was well into his 50s. C-Dye. C-Dye, real name Clint Macy, was another up-and-coming Chicago drill rapper with major potential. He had tracks like War With Us and was rolling with Lil Durk's OTF crew. Just like Rondo No. 9, he had a shot of making it out, but he couldn't let go of the street life. February 22nd, 2014, C-Dye was right there with Rondo No. 9 when they ran up on Javon Boyd's car and let off shots. The two of them fled the scene, thinking they got away clean. But what they didn't realize was that the entire thing was on surveillance cameras. The police had all the proof they needed, witnesses ID'd them, the fingerprints were on the victim's car, and they were doomed from the start. C-Dye faced the exact same fate as Rondo No. 9. In 2016, C-Dye, 21, was sentenced to 38 years for murder. The judge didn't care that they were barely adults. They were still old enough to know better. Max B. Max B was destined for stardom, a Harlem rapper with a unique melodic flow. He was one of the first to really introduce that sing rap wave before it became the norm. Rolling with Jim Jones and Dipset, Max was behind the legendary Coke Wave tapes that dropped street anthems like Blow Me a Dub and Baby Girl. He was on the rise, but the streets were always lurking in the background. September 2006, New Jersey. Max's ex-girl, Gina Conway, set up a robbery at the Holiday Inn. The targets were two dudes with a bag full of cash. Max wasn't there himself, but his crew ran up in the room, tied the guys up, and things went left. One of the victims, David Taylor, was shot and killed. When the case went to trial in 2009, the prosecution said that Max orchestrated the whole thing. Even though he wasn't at the scene, the judges hit him with 75 years. Basically, a death sentence behind bars. He was 31 at the time. Max B has been fighting for his freedom, and in 2019, his sentence got reduced. He could be out by 2032. He still drops music from behind bars, and the industry ain't forgot about him. French Montana been keeping his name alive. G-Dep. G-Dep was supposed to be one of Bad Boy's next big stars. Coming out of Harlem, he had the sick flow and the street cred that made him a perfect fit for Diddy's roster. He dropped hits like Special Delivery and Let's Get It, riding the wave of Bad Boy's dominance in the early 2000s. But while the music was popping, his demons were creeping up on him. Addiction, guilt, and a dark past that he couldn't shake. All of it led to a decision that changed his life forever. 1993, Harlem, New York. Back when he was just another kid in the streets, G-Dep was caught up in a robbery gone wrong. He pulled the gun on John Henkel, shot him 3 times, and ran off, thinking he got away with it. The case went cold. Nobody knew who did it, and G-Dep kept living his life. But that guilt, it never left. Fast forward to 2010, and G-Dep was deep in addiction, struggling to keep himself together, and that's when he did the unthinkable. He walked into a police station and confessed. At first, the cops didn't believe him, but when they checked the case files, they realized that he was telling the truth. His lawyers tried to argue that he didn't mean to kill Henkel, that it was just a spur-of-the-moment robbery, but the courts wasn't feeling it. In 2011, at the age of 37, he was sentenced to 15 years to life. The saddest part, if he never confessed, he probably would have never been caught. Mystical. Mystical had the kind of raw energy and wild flow that made him one of the biggest names in Southern rap. With No Limit Records, he blew up off hits like Shake Your Ass and Danger, turning his rapsy, aggressive delivery into his signature style. But behind the music, Mystical had problems he couldn't control, and those problems kept letting him behind bars. 2003, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Mystical was on the top of the game, but his ego and power got the best of him. He and 2 of his associates forced his hairstylist to perform sexual acts, claiming she had stolen money from him. It wasn't just an accusation, they filmed it. Once the case hit the courts, it was a wrap. The evidence was clear, and there was no way out. Mystikal pleaded guilty in 2004 and got hit with a 6-year prison sentence. He lost everything: his career, his deals, and the respect of his fans. He got out in 2010, but his troubles didn't stop there. Mystikal got released in 2010, but he kept going in and out of jail for more charges, including domestic violence and more sexual assault cases. In 2022, he was arrested again, this time on rape and domestic abuse charges. He's currently awaiting trial, and if convicted, he could be facing life this time. FWC Big Key. FWC Big Key was one of the new faces on Detroit's rap scene. With his gritty flow, punchline heavy delivery, and street authenticity, he was catching major attention. His tracks like What Up and We Paid Freestyle showed that he had the potential to go big. But just like so many before him, he couldn't stay away from trouble. Late 2024, Detroit, Michigan. Big Key was already on the Fed's radar, with multiple cases stacking up against him: gun charges, fraud schemes, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. It was only a matter of time before everything caught up to him. Detroit PD and federal investigators linked him to illegal activities, saying that he was involved in a credit card scam, fraud rings, and illegal firearm possession. His past records didn't help him. Multiple felonies meant no second chances. The prosecution wasn't playing, bringing up past offenses and recent crimes to build a stronger case. The judge sentenced him to a multi-year sentence, with his earliest release date set for January 1st, 2026. Big Key is serving time in Michigan, still dropping music from behind bars. He's been writing, recording, and making sure his name doesn't fade. But the industry moves fast, and time always could cost him everything. Mars Malone. Mars Malone wasn't a mainstream superstar, but he was making a name for himself in the underground rap world. A UK-based artist, he had raw, real style, talking about struggles, mental health, and his reality of the streets. But instead of growing his career, he ended up serving an 11-year sentence, one that he's turning into his motivation. Details on what exactly led to Mars' conviction remain somewhat private, but we do know that he's been charged with violent offenses, weapon possessions, and criminal activity tied to the streets. What's clear is that he was deep in the game, and it finally caught up to him. Unlike a lot of rappers who fight their cases, Mars accepted his fate as he began using his time inside to better himself. He got sentenced to 11 years, meaning he still got a long way to go before he's free again. Mars ain't letting prison silence him. Instead, he's using it as a platform, dropping music, talking about inmate struggles, and addressing prison suicide and mental health issues. His song still reaches his fans, but the big question remains: when he gets out, will he be able to take the career to the next level? Fetty Wap. Fetty Wap was on top of the world in 2015. His melodic flow and signature, "Yeah, baby," and smash hits like Trap Queen, 679, and My Way made him one of the biggest names in hip-hop. He went multi-platinum, hit #1 on the Billboard charts, and had every club, radio station, and festival rocking with his music. Coming from Paterson, New Jersey, Fetty Wap was proof that a street dude could make it big. But just as fast as he rose, he fell hard. October 2021, FBI agents arrested Fetty Wap and Cityfield, NYC. The charge? Drug trafficking. The feds said that he was moving weight across New York and New Jersey, pushing cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and crack. They weren't just talking small-time hustling. They claimed that he was part of a whole operation, distributing over 100 kilos of dope. Wiretaps, phone records, and cash drops painted the picture of a rap star who wasn't just talking about the trap life in his songs. He was still in the game, for real. His lawyers tried to argue that he was just a face and not the mastermind, but the evidence was stacked against him. Fetty pleaded guilty in 2022 knowing he wasn't beating a federal drug case. In May 2023, at the age of 31, the judge hit him with a 6-year prison sentence. Not the worst outcome, considering he was facing a potential life sentence. Steady B. Steady B, real name Warren McGlone, was another Philly rapper pioneer. Back in the 80s, he had hits like Serious and Take Your Radio and was running with the same Hilltop Hustlers crew as Cool C. He had skills, respect, and a solid career. But as the 90s came, his shine started fading. The money wasn't coming in like it used to be, and when the bank robbery idea got floated, he saw it as a way to come up. January 2nd, 1996, Steady B was the getaway driver. He wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but he was still part of the setup. He thought it was going to be a clean job. In, out, money in hand. But when Cool C shot Officer Verd, everything fell apart. Instead of escaping, they crashed the getaway car and got caught on the spot. Steady B didn't pull the trigger, but in the eyes of the law, he was just as guilty. Since the crime led to a murder during a felony, he got hit with life without parole. No chance of release, no deals, just a rap career buried behind bars forever. Steady B is serving life in a Pennsylvania prison, forgotten by most. NBA Youngboy. NBA Youngboy is one of the biggest names in rap right now. Since blowing up in 2017, he's been dropping hit after hit, pulling in millions of views and streaming numbers that rivals mainstream giants. Tracks like Outside Today, No Smoke, and Bandit turned him into a superstar. But with all that success, the streets never got to let go of him. Youngboy had been up and out of jail his whole career, but his biggest case hit him in 2021. The feds caught him with firearms as a felon, hitting him with gun charges across multiple states. In September 2021, the FBI even launched Operation Never Free Again, tracking his movements and trying to bring him down. In 2024, the hammer finally dropped. Youngboy was sentenced to 23 months in prison after a federal court found him guilty of multiple firearm possession charges. NBA Youngboy is locked up but still making moves. He's been dropping music from behind bars, keeping his fan base fed, but at the same time, he's dealing with mental struggles, posting messages about depression, regret, and feeling lost. C Murder. Corey C Murder Miller was more than just Master P's little brother. He was holding his own under No Limit Records. His album Life or Death went platinum, and he had the streets rocking with his joints like Down for My Ends and Like a Jungle. But while his music was blowing up, his street rep was just as strong. January 12th, 2002, Plush nightclub, Harvey, Louisiana. A fight popped off inside the club, and 16-year-old Steve Thomas ended up on the floor, shot dead. Witnesses claimed that C Murder pulled the trigger, supposedly over an argument, but the case was messy. No weapon was ever found, and stories kept changing. His first trial in 2003 ended in a conviction, but they got overturned. In 2009, he was retried and found guilty again, sentenced to life in Algolia prison. The trial was full of questionable evidence, and even jurors later admitted that they were pressured into convicting him. C Murder is still locked up, still fighting for his freedom. Kim Kardashian and Monica been pushing for his release, claiming new evidence proves him innocent, but the system ain't budging. Tay-K. Tay-K was just a teenager, but he had the industry watching. The Race blew up in 2017, turning him into a viral star. But that same song was literally about running away from the cops. Tay-K had one foot in the industry and one foot in the streets, and it caught up with him fast. July 26, 2016, Mansfield, Texas. Tay-K, only 16 at the time, was part of a home invasion robbery that turned deadly. Him and his crew hit the crib thinking that they'd get some easy money, but Ethan Walker ended up dead. Tay-K wasn't the shooter, but under Texas law, he was still responsible. TK thought he could outsmart the system, cutting his ankle monitor and going on the run. That's when he dropped The Race, a song basically taunting the police, but the law caught up to him quick. In 2019, TK, 19, was sentenced to 55 years and still facing additional murder charges. TK's in Bexar County Jail, and it ain't looking good for him. He tried to appeal, but that ain't happening anytime soon. No early releases, no nothing. He really threw his whole future away. Suge Knight. Suge Knight was one of the most feared men in hip-hop. He built Death Row Records, turning Tupac, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg into legends. He was the CEO, the enforcer, the muscle. But that power made him reckless. Suge played the industry like it was the streets, running with gangs, violence, and intimidation, thinking he was untouchable. That mindset got him exactly where he is today, behind bars. January 29th, 2015, Compton, California. Suge was at Towns Burgers in the middle of a heated beef with Terry Carter and Cleese Long, two men connected to the movie Straight Outta Compton. Things got wild, and next thing you know, Suge hopped up in his truck and ran both of them over. Carter was killed on the spot. Stallone survived. Security cameras caught the whole thing, and Suge sped off, thinking he could talk his way out of it later. But the footage was too clear. In 2018, Suge took a plea deal, admitting to voluntary manslaughter. He dodged life, but still got 28 years in prison. The legend of Suge Knight ended that day. Suge is locked up at R.J. Donovan Prison in San Diego.